How do you make more high ticket sales for your coaching offer without sounding salesy? Now, this is something that I come across very often. People worried about sounding too salesy or selling too much or being too frontal in their way of making sales, and it makes them feel like things are not quite right. And so, what I want to talk about today are some of the things that we need to take into account to really be able to overcome this issue so that you don't feel salesy, so that you feel really comfortable and confident in your own selling process. And you're able to really make sure that you're bringing the right people in, that you're speaking to the right people, you're enrolling more people with a lot more conviction and unwavering certainty in who you are and what you do and how you're doing things in the world right now. So for me, and this should be no surprise to you if you've been listening to me for a while, for me, you coming across as salesy is very simply a messaging issue. I mean, almost undoubtedly, I feel like that's the case because people think that sales are lost on the sales conversation or on the DM, meaning like when you're in the middle of the actual sales conversation and you're going into the details about the program or what you're selling, that's when the sale is lost. But the truth is that that could not be further from the truth. Sales are actually lost at the very beginning of your funnel or your process, meaning if you are bringing the wrong people into your funnel or into your system, it's going to be harder for you to make sales. And therefore, that is the very thing that makes you feel and sound salesy. Because if you're having a conversation with somebody who is not quite the right fit, I mean, they may have the problem that you're here to solve, but there's something there or a lot of things there that aren't really quite the thing that makes them your perfect, like on target, on point, ideal client. Well, that sales conversation is going to be a lot harder. It's going to be a lot more difficult for you to have because there's a lot of objections that you're going to have to overcome. And so if that's happening, it means that you're bringing the wrong person into the entire conversation. So you have to be very careful about who you're speaking to. And it really comes down to having a lot of clarity in terms of your message, in terms of who your ideal audience is. Who do you want to serve? Who do you want to help? Who are the people that are, this is really important, going to get the best results out of working with you? And so the reason why this matters is that when you are enrolling people that aren't quite the right fit, they're almost the right fit, but there's something slightly off, what happens to these people is that they then go on to not necessarily get the best results from your program. And so what starts to happen is that you have a lot of clients in your program or in your coaching or consulting or whatever you do that are not getting like these stellar results. And therefore your confidence starts to goes down, right? It inevitably starts to go down. And so once again, when you're having sales conversations and you're trying to convince somebody or show them that your problem or your program is the right fit for them and that you can help them, you have in the back of your mind all of these clients who are not necessarily getting results. And those are literally the things that are making you feel like you are coming across as salesy. So really, for me, this is why messaging is so important. And this is why having a lot of clarity around who your ideal audience is fundamental for success. It's not just about like enrolling people and making sure that your marketing is speaking to the right person. For me, it's also about making sure that you are bringing the right people into the equation. Like you really are enrolling the right people and you're making sure that the right people are coming in so that they're ensured of the highest results possible, right? So this is one big piece of that. For me, the other part of it is, and this comes down to, like, why am I feeling salesy? And a lot of times you're feeling salesy because there's something in the back of your mind that tells you that that's not giving you the confidence that you would desire around your offer and the solution. And what I see happening very often is like, I literally talk to people every single week who are absolute experts at what they do. Like there's a lot of experience, there's a lot of knowledge, they know their stuff really, really well. But what happens is that, they don't know necessarily how to express what makes them different. And oftentimes people think, well, I don't necessarily know if there's anything that makes me different. Like I maybe know that there is. And maybe they have a framework or they have a methodology, but that's not really enough and really being able to convey what truly makes you different. So when you're making sales, it feels like you're competing against a whole bunch of people who are selling the exact same thing or something similar to your thing. And so your confidence, your certainty, and your conviction once again start becoming kind of diminished and lowered down, right? So this is why for me, having that angle of mastery is fundamental. So for me, the angle of mastery is your premise, is your point of view, is your unique way of looking at the problem that your audience has and the solution. And this goes beyond the framework. Like in my case, in my business, I have a framework which I call the Breakthrough Brand Strategy Pyramid. And it's kind of like this breakdown of what happens and what needs to happen for you to be able to get results and, build messaging and all of that. But for me, my angle of mastery is something deeper, and it speaks to the big picture message. What is it that I'm looking to convey? What is the thing that I want my audience to truly understand? So what happens is that when I'm having a sales conversation with somebody, I can have absolute 1000% confidence in what I'm selling to people because I know that it's different. I know that there's nobody else in the world that's talking about angle of mastery because this is my own concept. I know that the way in which I'm approaching the solution is completely unique. Like I have clients that, for example, go through my program and they tell me, Fabi, I've done a lot of messaging programs in the past and I've done client avatar work and all these things. What you do is like I've never seen anybody else talk about this in the way that you do. So what that happens or that does for me is that it gives me absolute confidence and certainty in what I'm selling. It makes me feel like, well, of course, what I have is something unique. Of course, what I have is something different. And therefore, there's no way for me to feel salesy when I know that I'm selling something that is extremely high value. And so this is why having a lot of clarity around, okay, well, what is your message? What is your methodology? What is your process? What is the solution that you're actually selling? And how does that differ from everybody else in the market? There may be millions of coaches doing what you're doing right now, but the way in which you view the world is different. The way in which you view the problem is different. The way in which you speak to people is different. There's so many nuances and details in how you're showing up, and that needs to come across in your message so that you have that confidence on one end, but then on the other end, and this is really important, on the other end, you are pre-selling your offer even before you get to the sales call. So what that means is that your marketing should do a really good job of getting people kind of excited about your solution, right? It's not even about selling the offer per se, like, when I do sales conversations with people, when I do my audits or whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm not necessarily talking immediately about my program, but I'm talking about my solution, my angle of mastery, my way of doing things. And what that does is that it gets people to feel like I need to figure out what my angle of mastery is. I need to figure out what my solution is. I need to implement this into my own life. I need to figure out my messaging. All of these different things. So by the time that they're getting on a sales call with me, they're already excited. I also have a process for this, meaning like by the time somebody gets on a sales call with my team, they already have information about price points. They already have information about who we are, what we do, how it works, what the system looks like, all of those details. And I do feel like that makes a really big difference in you not coming across a salesy. I think that what happens very often is that there's this really outdated model for doing sales that is not going to work anymore. I think that every single day that goes by, you see it working less and less. In fact, I was shocked when a few days ago, I saw a video from a coach that I used to follow who was very much like a high pressure sales coach, and they were teaching high pressure sales. And on that video, he was talking about how you shouldn't be doing high pressure sales. Like, that is a clear sign to you that the world is changing right now. The market is changing. Bro marketing, bro scaling, this bro way of doing sales will not cut it anymore. And so what happens is that for a lot of us, we're used to doing these things because we've been told that this is what works. We have to do this like very high pressure way of doing sales, making sure you're really uncovering the problem and going into their pain points and asking them like, what are the consequences of they not solving the problem, and just really taking people into this like emotional, really hard place for them to make a decision to buy. Of course you feel salesy if that's what you're doing when you're doing sales. Like, it's no wonder that you're feeling like that. So how to change that comes from messaging, like I just said, but also shifting the way in which you look at sales completely, right? So if you're being more transparent, if you're being more frontal, if you're sharing your price before the sales call, if you are creating demand for your solution, not just creating demand for the outcome, meaning like, it's not just about, and again, I'm just using myself as an example. I'm not going to go in here and talk about like how wonderful it is. I mean, I can talk about this, but not only just create demand about like, hey, this is, life with a business full of amazing clients, and I'm going to help you attract clients, and we're going to help you make $1 million by midnight tonight, and all this like exaggeration in terms of claims. I don't do that in my marketing. But when you're doing that, you're not really creating demand around your solution. What you're doing is just creating even more demand around the problem and just agitating the problem more and agitating what I'm lacking. And so therefore, once again, that process of selling becomes much more of a harder process and makes you feel out of alignment and salesy. When you're creating demand around your way of solving the problem, now everything is different. It's not just about the outcomes, it's about you really understanding what their problem is and how you can really help them. I go into this in much more detail at readytoinvestclients.com. I have an in-depth training which walks you through exactly how to really define your message, your angle of mastery, who your buyers are. I give you examples. I give you a lot of different things. So go to readytoinvestclients.com to watch it because it's going to be really helpful. The last thing that I want to say around being or feeling like you are salesy is really reminding yourself what you're here to do and believing in yourself and the impact that you're here to make. I think that once again, it's easy for us to compare ourselves to other people and what they're doing and how that's working and all these different things, and forgetting like what your impact is here for and why you're truly here for. And I feel like when you get really focused on really believing in yourself and saying, you know what, yes, I'm selling to you, but I'm going to change your life. And this is exactly what you need. And I know that I can help you. And I know my value and I know my power. And I'm passionate about this. And I know that I am here to serve. When you can stand behind that unwavering certainty, that conviction in who you are and what you're here to do, you will never feel salesy. It's not about just you. It's about the people that you're here to help. And if you open your email, I'm sure you're getting emails from Target or Walmart or Starbucks every single day where they're selling, 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 and they're not feeling bad about it. Why should you? Get out there, sell more. Don't be embarrassed about it. Don't feel bad about it because you're here to serve people. And that is all that truly matters. Make sure that you subscribe below on Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all of the different places. Leave me a comment below letting me know if this resonated with you, if this is something that stands out, what you want me to talk about next, and I will see you in another episode.